we've always used the bank's money to open the next store. This last store, though, we did SBA the first 3 stores, and the last time the relationship with the bank is great, and the banker's like, you don't even need an SBA, just tell us what you want to do.
Richard and Margarette Baze are a husband and wife duo who own 4 Uptown Cheapskates, a clothing resale franchise that has some of the best unit economics of any emerging franchise in the country. The typical franchisee does about $236,000 in net income, but Richard and Margarette are in the top 10% of franchisees, which comfortably puts them at above $1 million in profit per year across their 4 stores. In this conversation, we dive into the thrift business model and what makes Uptown Cheapskate such a differentiated and profitable concept. Enjoy the episode. I know you guys own a few of your own independent thrift shops. Can you just give a primer of what that entails? What is the typical thrift shop?
What's different from, how about we'll talk about what's different from Uptown. So
Yeah.
Uptown is going to be basically fashion. It's going to be clothing and accessories, everything associated with fashion. And in Thrift, you do have clothing and accessories and everything, but then you have books and music and TVs and furniture, and you just have anything and everything that you could imagine is in a thrift store. When we're in the thrift store business, we have charity partners. So what happens in the thrift world, charities need money for whatever their mission is, and they're not necessarily set up to run a thrift business. So they look for partners, and basically you acquire donations on their behalf, and then you pay them for those donations. And that's what's different about it. Typically, the footprint on those are way larger. I think our last thrift store was nearly 19,000 square foot. That's a large store,
Yeah.
but in order to accommodate the vast number of items that you would have in a thrift store, you have to have that square footage. And then the model here is the footprint's quite a bit smaller.
Was there an employee difference there with 19,000 square feet? Do you just need higher headcount just to even man the floors at that scale?
Yeah, it's not just at the store level. At the store level, you're looking at probably, so you have front of the house, the retail side of it, where you're selling, and then you have production team in the back, and then you typically have drivers that go pick up the items, maybe even have a couple office personnel. So typically in that thrift store business, you're looking at 35 employees for a location. And then it depends on the volume of your store at Uptown. Marguerite could speak more to what the actual numbers are in the store, but
I would say our average store has about 20 employees at a time.
That's for Uptown.
That's
Yeah.
for an Uptown store.
Yeah.
Prices meaning, I'd say at the thrift store we run 35 to 40 employees in the thrift. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
about half the staff.
Got it. So I think that just will help the audience set the stage before we can get into Uptown now. But we're talking a lot higher head count, a lot bigger sites needed, and even really the whole product sourcing model just is totally different. So
yeah, it's totally different business. I mean, you're in the used world, the resale world, so it opens your mind to the resale world. But like in the thrift business too, you're selling so many more items, but they're not curated. And we like to say at Uptown, it's more curated. So we're looking for current styles, current fashion trends, brands, and that's what we're buying. In the thrift business, if it's not ripped, stained, or torn, you basically just put it out and let the customer figure out if it's a good deal or not. So the average item sells for so much less in a traditional thrift format.
I guess transitioning to Uptown, what year did you guys come across it, and what kind of sparked your interest to dive into a franchise for the first time?
Well, I think that we were just we know that we love like being in the used retail segment. And so we just kind of started poking around, and we originally came across Plato's Closet. We were kind of interested in that because what caught our attention is it is a smaller footprint. It is less staff. You're not having to run trucks to go out and pick up donations. And one thing about the thrift world is, you get a ton of inventory that is not sellable. People donate really great things, but people also want to just clean out a house, and it may be stuff that's not resellable. I mean, what are you going to do with one glove or one shoe or, stuff that has condition issues?
Or broken items.
You get so much stuff, and so you have a really high bill for just disposal of those goods that aren't sellable. We do try to recycle as much as we can, like thrift business. If it's clothing with rip tears or stains, we actually bell that and then we send that off to a recycler so it's not going into a landfill. So we try to recycle as much as we can. But with the uptowns, people bring their items in and we're able to choose what we want to sell in the store. So it brings down the labor intensive part of trying to manage all that inventory. And so we started looking at a Plato's Closet, and that just kind of caught our attention. It's like, hey, you're not running trucks. You're able to pick your inventory. We still love the part that it was about, recycling. And that's kind of how that piqued our interest. And we just kind of started looking around. And with the Plato's Closet, we were in the thrift business. They thought that was a conflict of interest and said that we had to completely get out of that business to open a franchise with them, which at the time, thrift was our livelihood, so we're not going to do that, obviously.
I think at the
Yeah.
time we had 3 or 4 big operating thrift stores.
Okay.
So for us, it made no sense to give that business up to go to Plato's. We actually were all the way to the point where we were about to get flights for Discovery Day. And then they called, doing their due diligence, called and like, hey, what's this business that you have? Well, what exactly do you do? And we told them. And it was amazing how they flipped instantly. They're like, no way, we can't sell you Plato's because it's a conflict of interest.
And so then we started just researching the buy-sell trade industry. We came across Uptown Cheapskate. There was one that had just opened in Arlington. It's a brand new store. So we drove down there to look at it. And we just fell in love with the store. Like, I think at Uptown Cheapskate, just the quality of inventory, the looks of the store. I mean, it's just an elevated resale store. And so we contacted them. We told them up front what we did, and they thought it was great. They said, we don't feel it's a conflict of interest. We actually think that's really positive that you got experience in the resale market. And then in 2000, I think we signed on in 2015, and then we opened our first store in Norman in 2016.
It's Norman, Oklahoma.
All right, so 2015, and now we're coming up. You guys are in the middle of building and opening your 3rd or 4th store. Is that right?
4th location.
Yeah, we're not open to buy right now at our 4th location.
And this one's unique in the respect of, as we've been in the business, it's evolved. Our thought process on it has evolved, but the business has evolved, and we'll get into some of the leadership and the evolution of the business. But this is going to be our biggest store footprint wise. Our very first store is 4,200 square feet, Norman, Oklahoma. This North Oklahoma City store is going to be just a couple feet shy of 10,000 square feet. And then our first employee that we hired at Uptown Cheapskate, Molly, first she was the assistant manager to Marguerite, and then she worked her way up and runs the store the last 8, 9 plus years.
Yeah.
Been with us almost 10 years. Well, she got to a point where she was, she's gotten older and she's decided that she wanted to do her own Uptown Cheapskate franchise. And we already own this market, so we partnered with her on this store. So it's the first time ever we've partnered with anybody outside of us. So we have a partner on this 4th store. Part of that was to carry the load with us, in a 4th store. And part of that was to help her, I guess, to get the business acumen to be able to run her own stores going forward. Because she actually bought another market. So we're going to open this store with her.
And she'll manage it probably for the first year. She'll actually be the store manager. And then we'll end up hiring a manager, promoting within, hopefully. And then she'll move on, and the next store will be all her store.
Fully hers.
Yeah, fully hers.
Okay. I'd love to get into this, especially since it's pretty top of mind for you guys, the opening process. What is that like for an Uptown? And specifically, I guess we can start with site selection. Are you guys looking to be located right next to a grocery anchored shopping center, or is it a different class of real estate that can work with this model?
I don't think a grocery anchor. Now, if a grocery anchor is in a center, but we're looking more, we'd like to be close to more off price or like Target, TJ Maxx, Ross, Marshalls. We're looking to be more in that area because it's the same customer base. If we can have a Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, that's the demographic for our customer base. And it's also our employee demographic because they're all in their 20s. We say it's 13 to 35. So if we can be where they're already shopping, that's what we're looking for. So the grocery anchor is not necessarily the thing, but all of our stores are, oddly enough, near, well, all but one are really close to Targets.
Okay.
Yeah, Target, Ulta. We'd love to have a makeup store because I would say probably what do you think? Is it 85% of our customers are probably female?
Yes.
Probably 85% are female. So that's a really good pull for us. So our stores typically are in pretty busy shopping centers. Our new one is our anchor here is the At Home, but across the street, directly across the street, is a Super Target, a Chick-fil-A. Like we're on a really busy corner.
There's a Starbucks.
We've got our competitor right across the street from us as well. So there's already resale in this corridor where we're at. Plus, we've got all the business that we know that are a draw for our business.
And you guys said you'd be happy to be by like a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls, even though that's technically like in some respect directly competitive with you, right?
It is, but I think that customer is looking for discount. So they're already a discount shopper. And so they're already bringing the traffic to TJ Maxx. So if we are sitting there, they're going to come in our store. We're going to get the residual traffic from that. And I mean, we carry a lot of the same brands and
Right.
we carry some better brands in TJ Maxx, but you can come in here and get a really good deal on it. We're running 70-80% off of typical mall prices.
I love that you guys are that confident in the model. I just think it bodes well. And clearly it's working, which we'll get into kind of how the portfolio is doing. But I guess once you pick a location, right? First off, I mean, I know you have your 10,000 square foot store, but is a typical Uptown, it's not really getting that large. So what is a more standard real estate square footprint?
I think the majority of them would fall into the 5,000 to 6,000 range now.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
probably the model now.
Okay. And did that change? And maybe we can quickly kind of just tangent into the ownership change, where I did believe it was the Sloan family that founded this. And now Zach and Tyler of Basecamp have been running the show for at least 4 or 5 years, I think.
I'll give you a quick rundown on that. The Sloan family, they started, this is Basecamp Franchising is the parent company, and they started a business called Kid to Kid and basically raised their kids in that business. And then they ended up franchising that. And then all of their children worked in the business all the way up until recently. But their two oldest ones are the ones that basically conceptualized the Uptown Cheapskate. So they branched out. It was Chelsea and Scott, and they branched out Sloan, and they come up with this. The new CEOs that have taken over in the last couple of years, I don't think the model changed with them, but what they're doing is they're open. They got a fresh set of eyes on it. And so they're open to people saying, hey, listen, I'd like to do a bigger store. So I think the model before was probably still 35 to
4,500 square foot.
4,500 square foot. So I don't think it's them that changed it. I think progressively it was changing even before they showed up. There were some larger stores that had already come online before they showed up into the system.
Got it. And as far as construction, there's not a bunch of equipment you're going to need to install or retrofit to fit in, right? You're pretty much just getting racks of clothing out there.
Yeah, actually, you start out basically with a shell of a building, and you build fitting rooms and make sure you want a couple restrooms and office, but then the majority of it is just the shell, and then you're going to just throw up clothing racks.
Build out your fitting rooms.
Yeah.
The counter system is pretty
elaborate.
Pretty elaborate because our counter system serves basically 3 different purposes. It's where customers come in and sell to us. So you've got one part of it where we're buying and entering items. You've got another part of the counter system where customers walk up and that's where they're checking out when they're buying items. And then you've got another part of the counter, and that's where we're processing. So when we buy items in, those items need to be tagged and censored and put on hangers and go to the floor. So you've got like a processing end. So you've got 3 working components to our counter system. So it's not a typical retail counter and you've got 3 people or 4 people checking out. There's so much going on behind our counter system. It is like a little mini factory going on right there. Yeah.
Is that split up like amongst personnel where it's one section if you're turning in clothes and one section to check out, or is it all just one person?
You walk up at our new store, we've got a counter, and I think we might have the largest counter in the franchise now.
Yeah,
it's like 60 foot long. So we've got a whole big area for buys, and we've got a big sign that says sell here. So when a customer walks in, they know like, hey, I'm going to go over here to sell. Then you've got the middle part. It's got a sign that says checkout, so customers know where to check out. And then at the very end It's kind of down there by itself, and that's where we've got our processor. So our staff comes in, we let them know each day, like, hey, you're going to be working at the buy counter, or you might be working at processing. So we assign their role when they come in. Not everybody buys in the store. They have to be trained. It could take a few months to train a buyer or have a really good seasoned buyer, because you got to make sure you have somebody that really knows what to look for, because you can't afford to buy an inventory that's damaged or items that aren't good brands that we would want in the store, or maybe items that are just a little too old. So anyway, we train them and try to get them up going in 3, 4, 5 months, and then they can be a buyer.
So what we
Okay.
have is we have an entry level position. We call it a fashion consultant. And that's going to be just sometimes that's high school kids that come in the evening. Sometimes it's full time employees, and they work on the processing end. So when we say processing, they're basically putting things on hangers, putting a price tag, putting a sensor, and they're on that end of the counter. They do crossover. They help with the fitting rooms, and they also do some of the checkout. And then when they've been around and they learn our processes and everything, they can work their way into a career path. And everybody needs to be able to buy, including our leadership in the store, like the store manager, the assistant manager, third key. They all need to be able to buy. So they work into a career path. So they work their way to the other end of the counter. So it is segmented, and then there's some crossover because we're cross training people along the way.
And then as far as the inventory, that is, I think, a huge question mark, probably for anyone listening to this, is how do you get it? How do you know what to take, what not to take? So I don't know where the best place to start with this topic is, but that's obviously the most critical aspect of the business.
It is.
It's the most critical part.
We have, like our last guest on this podcast was, well, I guess by the time this is released, it'll have been a Scent Hound franchisee, which is a pet dog grooming franchise, right? So they're just trying to get customers onto their membership. And then before that, it was a Wingstop franchisee. So he was just selling chicken wings and sandwiches. Right. This is, though, like, you're not making anything. You're getting clothes almost from the general public around you. And yeah, there's a lot going on. So maybe we can start with, how are you filling that store? How are you getting people to come in and even just offer up their clothes for a low dollar amount?
Well, the starting point was, for us, this is our fourth store. So we've done this. Yeah. So we kind of have some things in place. But the franchise, they do a great job with the new store opening processes. They've got every bit of the processes broken down in segments, date ranges, when you should be doing this. So what we started with is the person that we're partnering with that's also going to run our store. She started as we're doing construction and buying the fixtures and waiting for the fixtures. All this work is being done in the background. There's no location. Well, she starts what we call a buy message. So on social media, she's telling people we're coming. She's showing up to the store and doing some images of the store as it's progressing. And she's basically doing buy messages. And we talk about buy and sell messages.
Yeah, she went to her house and she's going through her closet. And she's basically like, hey, we're going to open to buy. Start cleaning your closets out. And she's kind of showing she's taking it out of her closet. She's making sure it doesn't have any damage on it. She folds it up. She puts it in the laundry basket. So she's going through and she's showing people like, hey, clean your closet out. She's doing a lot of social media about what we're looking for, what certain styles and the age of the item and, how to bring your items in. So she's doing all of this even before we're even in here. So she's done this for, 2 or 3 months before we've even opened to buy. So you really create a lot of excitement about the store coming. And like our first day, I think we had 87 people come sell to us just the first day. And we've been busy ever since. Like, it's just been really crazy busy. And so we also cross market with our other stores, letting those customers know, like, hey, there's a new store coming. So clean out your closet and come sell to us. And a lot of those customers have already sold to us at other locations. So they already know kind of what we're looking for and what to expect when they come in and sell to us. But Molly has done just a wonderful job with the social media, getting people excited about cleaning their closets out.
I think most businesses now, you've created a business when there's not even a brick and mortar yet, when there's not a location necessarily set up. So the business is already working on social media. So online, we're posting our Google ads and we're posting Facebook ads, and all that stuff is already happening. So the customers know it's coming. So everybody's doing that now. But I think Molly and then the franchise group, they have some people that we work with that help keep us on task on some of those things. Like, hey, have you run these ads? Have you done this? And so that allowed us. So she said that we had 87 people the first day. And then she sent a text out to our current base of customers.
Just one store.
One store, which is the closest store that we already have. It's 8 miles away. And we had 122 show up on Saturday to sell to us.
Which is a lot because when they're bringing stuff in, I mean, they're bringing in, gosh, I mean, some of them bring these huge IKEA bags, multiple bags. So it's a lot to sort through. But we're super excited, and customers get excited because we're like, hey, the sooner we get this store filled, like the sooner we're going to have our grand opening. And I think they get really excited about that. And they start telling their friends, like, clean out because everybody wants to come shop. So as soon as we fill it up, we'll be able to open the store.
So I can speak to that. Like our very first store, we brought the concept to Oklahoma City. So it was our first one. So it took longer to ramp up than
Because people
any
weren't familiar with
concept itself.
They didn't know what Uptown Cheapskate was.
Yes.
And so we had to really build the brand. But now that we're 10 years into this fourth location, like we're like, hey, a new Uptown Cheapskate location is coming, and bam, like people are just super excited about it.
Now there's already fervor. I mean, there's just excitement in the market because they understand that. And when we first started, we did use Plato's Closet as an example. We'd say we're like Plato's Closet, but we'd say, but we think a little better. We would just be honest. We'd say we use their concept because they had 500 and some odd stores when Uptown had 60 stores. We used that as a guiding point. And a lot of people had heard of Plato's Closet or had been in Plato's Closet. So that was an easy way for us to let them understand our business. And then we would invite them to go to their Plato's and then come to our store and see if they see a difference.
Totally. I think a point of almost, I don't know if it's intimidation or just what would be so foreign to a lot of franchisees and potential franchisees is, I know you guys mentioned that 85% of the customers are female. So I'd imagine a lot of the clothes coming in are female clothes. Just how do you guys, and maybe did you have a really good fashion sense before store number one? Because I think that's a point where a lot of people would just get afraid and say, hey, I have no clue what clothes I should be accepting, how to even know what you could price it at. So yeah, if you can get into just kind of how do you build that muscle, that skill set and that knowledge set. And I'd also love to know about like the economics. Like if I turn in my sister's dress for $20, how much, or I'm asked, like, do I get $20? How do you guys price it?
I think that, when I got into the business, I mean, I kind of kept up on fashion.
Right.
I took fashion merchandising classes way back, but we're a young adult style. So, you're going and you're just looking at a lot of information you can get just like on TikTok and Instagram and see what styles are trending. But just going on a fashion field trip to the mall and you're going to an American Eagle and all these retail stores that cater to young adults and just looking at what's in the stores. And then when you're hiring, you want to try to hire people that love fashion, that are staying up on the trends. I think that's really important in the store because they're the ones that are out shopping and looking at everything and they know what's trending. And so just hiring the right people is really important.
Yeah, a lot of our
people
ads
that are excited about fashion, like they love this job. They think it's like the
funnest
thing, like sorting clothes and like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like I know the sell in the store. And so when you first open a store, you probably are going to make some buying mistakes. You're going to buy some things that don't sell when they're going to go to discount. But I'd say, I think it's pretty quick to get your feet under you once you get the store open. You know what your customers are looking for. We've got really great data. We can go in and look at what's selling. We can look at our price ranges to make sure that we're pricing effectively. So there's a lot of data that we can look at on that side of it.
I think one thing we don't want to lose sight of, when you first come on as a franchisee too, you go to your discovery day and everything, but then when you sign on, they have a training program. I think you went for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So Marguerite flew to Salt Lake City, which was the base of the company, and Molly went with her. And did she go with you the first time? There was like a 2-week training deal, and basically it was classroom training, some training modules online, and then
you actually go work in a store.
Yeah.
So like we went to a store in Frisco, and we spent a week working in that store. So I think that was really good too. You're seeing how the store is operating. You're working at the buy counter. So you're doing all that before you even open your store.
So would you say, is there a consistent, almost inventory mix, I guess is the right word, across stores? Because I'm just thinking as someone who doesn't know anything about fashion, right? I wear Henley t-shirts most days. The people who are selling their clothes to you in Oklahoma City, is that the same as, I don't know if there's a franchisee in San Diego or Miami, Florida, right? Could it be totally different? And then thus the model changes to some respect if people in Miami want different clothes than maybe people in Oklahoma City. Does that make sense?
There is a little difference at stores. I think the basics are pretty much the same. We're looking for things no more than 2 to 3 years old, and we specialize in young adult styles.
Casual wear.
But when you go to, let's say for Austin, for example, Austin, they actually do quite a bit of vintage. So I think that is a little bit different. So they have the newer stuff that's no more than 2 or 3 years old, but they also have a really big vintage area as well because that sells really good in Austin. So I think that you can go to different stores in different areas of the country and you will get a little bit different flavor at each one. But when you look at like the root of the store, it's still 2 to 3 years old, young adult styles.
The core business is consistent. Then you're going to have, like she was saying, you're going to have certain areas. They're going to have their own. They're also, the climate's going to come into play. You know, the climate's not changing in San Diego. So they're probably not selling as much winter as you're going to sell in the East Coast or even Salt Lake City. They're going to sell more winter. Their winter's a little longer. We're in the middle of the country. We have no seasons here. It's either brutally hot or brutally cold. We don't have anything in between. So for us, people buy all things all the time here because like it was 100 degrees yesterday and it's 80 degrees today. That's a typical Oklahoma weather. So for us, we have people buying all kinds of things all the time. So I think that comes into play too. But the core of the business, oddly enough, is pretty much the same. I think if you're in markets like Dallas or LA or Miami, New York, Chicago, I think they're a little bit more fashion forward. They also have the big retailers there that we like their labels to be in our store. So there may be more of that in the market that's being sold. And then in Oklahoma, we don't have as many as the big shopping meccas here. So those are some variances that comes into play. But for the most part, the core business is the same across the country.
Okay, well, it's good to know that. I mean, it's but trainable. You can get trained on the basics, and then is it fair to say though that you do want to stay on top of the trends in the fashion world for this like young adult cohort that seems to be the core customer?
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for an example, like, skinny jeans are really popular. So right now, it's a wider leg jean that's popular. So we're really not buying skinny jeans. That'll come back around eventually, but we're buying, a wider leg jean. And so we're getting a lot of skinny jeans in that we're passing. We just have to let our customers know, like, hey, these are still really great brands. These are the brands that we're looking for, but this style's a little bit harder for us to sell, and that's what we're going to pass on.
And they'll be back. They'll be back in a year. They'll be back, and people will be wearing skinny jeans again.
But we're starting to see not as many skinny jeans now because people have taken those out of their wardrobe and they're wearing that wider leg jean. But a lot of this stuff, like sweaters and shirts and basic items, I mean, I would say that drastically changes from season to season. Like you can buy stuff 2 to 3 years old, and sometimes you can buy stuff a little bit older, like athletic. Like that doesn't really change. Nike black leggings for women, that could be a year old or it could be 5 years old. They're still making that pant. So that's not something that's really changing. So you have a lot of items that the style doesn't really change a ton on.
Graphic tees, popularity.
Graphic tees have been popular forever.
Cyclical, it just comes back and forth. Different things are popular, but they're always popular. Graphic tees, jeans. I mean, Levi's jeans. I guess American Eagle is probably our number one selling jean. But then Levi's and American Eagle, they've been consistent the entire time we've been in business. We got a funny story. When we first started, so it's not us being on trend, but like when we first started, we were not aware of what Lululemon was. That's 10 years ago, but Lululemon has been the most consistently popular brand in our system year over year, the entirety of our business.
And we're 10 years later, and it still like sells like crazy. Like right now, we've got our Lululemon at our front door, and customers are coming in to sell, and they like can't wait to come back for grand opening because they're like, oh my gosh, look at all this Lululemon, and so they're super excited about it.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I don't know if you saw in the news the Kirkland Costco's brand.
Yes.
They're
getting sued by Lulu for copying the brand.
It looks like the same exact product, but obviously it's a lot cheaper than Lulu.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I saw that.
That'll be interesting. It's just I'm keying in on this, staying on top of the trends and being aware of inventory because I'd imagine that the difference in every franchise system. You have the average performance, then there's always a cohort of underperformers, and there's overperformers, which you guys are very much in that camp, right? The overperforming cohort. So I would imagine that staying on top of these trends matters, right? Because if you're not, and you're maybe accepting items that you shouldn't accept, or you're maybe not willing to pay up for the trendier items that might be worth a few more bucks,
Yeah.
then your inventory mix can potentially become stale, and you're just not going to drive as much revenue through your store, and maybe even customers won't come back because you don't have the whatever the hot new trend is in your store.
I think the franchise model is great. And I do think that it's embraced more in different parts of the countries. And there's no reason why that's the case, but I guess maybe because it's more known in different parts of the country. But I think what happens there's so many variables, and this is in any franchise, not here, it's anywhere. The difference between performance a lot of time is, how much is the franchisee involved? Are they overly involved? Like, is it a 50-year-old owner that's squeezing, like, I don't want to buy that. I don't want, or is it a 50-year-old owner that's hiring the right people? So we always run ads that say, are you fashion centric? Or do you have a passion for fashion? Because there's so many people out there that are like that, and that's who we're hiring for. We ask them questions like, what would you, if we gave you $500, everybody that's ever worked for us probably has had this question. If we gave you $500 today and you could go shop anywhere you want, where would you go buy first? And it's funny, what has changed is, I would you say 99% of the time now, these young people say, I'm going to thrift first, and then I'm going to supplement somewhere else. But I'm going to always hit the thrift stores first because the money goes further.
Wow.
I don't think they shop full price first anymore.
Yes.
I mean, I think they shop resale first. And if they can't find it in resale at a thrift store or at a store like us, like a buy sell trade store, I think that then they might go out and buy full price. But when they do go buy it at full price, they're still looking at a discount price. They might go to like a TJ Maxx or maybe do some online shopping, but they're all about buying it used first before they buy it new. So I think that's just the mindset with younger people has really changed over the years.
Thrifting's popular with them. That's
popular.
important. But I think younger people are more environmentally conscious. And I think that they are bought into the fact that we say that we're giving these clothing a second chance at life or a chance to be reloved with someone else. And I think they really buy into that concept on their own.
I definitely think a concept like this is certainly on the right side of this trend of sustainability. And I think it's a good thing. I think there's a lot of retailers who, if their clothes don't sell, they just end up in a landfill if they can't offload it to a wholesale discount shop. So
that's right.
So if someone does come into your store, can you kind of just walk us through the mechanics of how you guys decide generally what you're going to pay that person who's trying to give you a dress or a crew neck sweater, whatever the item is? How do you decide what you're going to pay them and then what you're going to price it at as well? Is there a standard markup that you guys aim for?
So it really depends on, we have proprietary software, and I want to say that we have the best software in the industry.
What does the software do?
So it's our appraisal system. So when you bring your items in, we take that item, we enter it in the computer. It generates what the retail price would be, and then also generates your offer for that. So, and that is based on the demand for the item, the brand of the item. So if you bring us in Lululemon, it's obviously going to pay out quite a bit more than if you bring us in maybe a pair of athletic pants from Old Navy. So
and you're just scanning the tag?
We actually enter it. So we take your stack of clothes, our buyer puts it beside them, they pick it up, and they type in Lululemon. And then you hit athletic, and if it's pants, you hit pants. And then it's going to bring up recommended pricing. And we get that pricing from what customers are willing to pay for it in our store. So our system will recognize the average item for a Lululemon pair of pants is selling for this. So it's like a smart technology where it's going to know, like, hey, if we ended up pricing it too high and it went to discount and they're going at a lower price, the system learns that becomes our new retail price. So it knows, like, this is what the customer is willing to pay for it. But our software is fantastic. It is really good. And I want to say that Zach and Tyler have put so much time and energy in hiring the right people in our IT department to take us to the next level. We are just super excited about our buying system. So really, I would say the hardest part of our business is probably training people to buy the right items. And that's not really that hard because our company also does a really wonderful job at training. So you can get onto websites and they've got courses that they've made to train you how to buy. And for us, since we do have 4 stores now, we have one of our associates that is our buyer trainee. And so she goes around and she works with all our new buyers. And so she's training with them. We have buyer meetings with all of our buyers together. And we're talking about like, hey, this is an item that has sold really good in the past, but we're seeing this go to markdown. So we might want to pull back from that. Or this is an item that's really popular. We want to buy more of it. And we have lots of reports to look at to see like, hey, this is an item that we are selling through really good, so we want to buy more. This is an item that's sitting, so we want to back off of that. So I would say like just our software and technology of what's selling in the stores and the prices is just, it's really, really great.
To clarify, it's so simple. Like when the item is in front, you go to the computer screen and it literally says men or women. So you pick men, and then it's like top or bottom, top or bottom, and then and you say jeans, and then you scroll down, you're looking for American Eagle.
Or you type the brand in. It'll
you
just
can type
pop American Eagle. Like you just type in AMER, it'll already populate American Eagle because it's, it's taking the first.
Yeah.
So anything that starts with that, it pulls up. Then you just click on that, you hit your price, and then the software will give you the recommended selling price, what the payout's going to be on that, and then it just adds all those up, and then you make your offer to your customer.
So we do tell people, so like if you came in and sold to us, we're saying, hey, listen, we are the middleman, and we are. So what we're doing is we're taking clothes from you, and we're going to pay you a percentage of what we're going to sell it for, and we're going to sell it to the next person. So you can go online and you can sell it individual, piece by piece to someone else, meet them in a dark parking lot, sell it to them, whatever you're going to do, and you can make a little bit more money on every particular item, or you can come in and we'll buy a stack of items from you, and we're going to make you what we consider a fair offer. And really it's 25 to 35% of what we're going to sell it for. It's just that simple. And that is standard in this business, whether it's Plato's or Buffalo or whatever. It's going to be in that range. It's going to be 30 to 40%. That's going to be super standard. And I think what happens is your vendors, and that's what we call people that sell to us, your vendors end up understanding that that's just what it is. Some people come in and they're like, I paid $100 for this. Well, we hate to tell you, but when you paid $100 for this sweatshirt, it wasn't worth $100 when you paid for it. You just went to the mall and you paid $100. But I'm going to only sell it for $20.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a percentage based on that 20.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So they bought something for 100. And I guess they're getting $7 for it, maybe. Yeah. I totally obviously see your perspective. If you're only selling for $20, I mean, that's your, whatever you're paying them, that's your cost of goods right there.
But the other side of that vendor, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's huge percentage. Those vendors are also our customers. So they see the value that they can come in and they can take that. So we give them an offer cash, or we give them 25% more in-store credit. So then they can turn around and they can get a little bit extra money if they plan on shopping in our store. But then they see the real value when they come buy from us, because they can take that offer, add 25%, and then buy in our store, and there's the real value in the deal. So that's why it's called buy, sell, trade. The trade is really,
if they decide to do the store credit. But when you pay $100 for a sweatshirt and you paid $100 for it 3 years ago, it's not worth $100 today. And that item probably even with that retailer went on sale at some point and went marked down. And then, like I said, it's 2 to 3 years old or so when we get it. So it's not going to be worth that $100 anymore that you paid for it. And now it's worn on top of that. So you have to think about all of that when you're selling. Like he said, you can definitely sell your items and make more on your own. But what we offer is we offer a convenience. We also take the risk. So not everything in our store sells, So
not everything sells at full price.
Doesn't mean it's going to sell at that price. It could go discount, So we take all the risk when we buy that item.
It's kind of like a car, right? As soon as you drive it off the lots,
right.
Exactly.
As soon as you buy something, take the tag off and put it on. That's it. Like it's not as much as it was right before then.
That GMC Sierra is not worth
Yeah.
$80,000, but the market bears it. And then when I turn around and try to sell it in 1 year,
Like,
I'm getting 60,000 for it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just the way it works, you know.
Yeah. But I think it's awesome just to go back to the software. As Uptown gets bigger and it's growing every year, and I would imagine the number of customers coming in just per store is going up. That's more data that's fueling the system. So it's only going to get smarter and smarter. And
Oh, yeah, it is. And really, I think what happened, we had the perfect storm of, we call them the brothers, by the way, because we got
yeah.
co-CEOs and they're brothers. And Tyler did tell me to say that he was our favorite brother. So just in case he heard that, we were told to say that. So we want to put that out there. No, I'm just kidding.
we're just messing with you.
We're just messing with Tyler if he hears it. But anyway, I think it was the perfect storm when they came on. I think the business was in a boom and it was growing anyway. So the revenues coming into the franchisor was greater. So they come in with a fresh view of what they wanted to do. But then they had more money to work with because the stores were doing better. And I think they took those increased revenues from the store, therefore increased royalties. And I think what they did is they put it back in. They hired really good people in marketing, really good people. And not that we didn't have good people, we did. But as you grow, you can get fresh eyes on everything. And I think what happened was the touches that they put on our software system have enhanced it dramatically. And like she's saying, now it's a smart system. It is actually taking the numbers that you're selling, not just system wide, but in your store, and it's creating the pricing, the suggested pricing based on what you're getting for it in your store. So that makes it really foolproof to train new buyers to buy the product consistently, which is important.
Yeah. Within Uptown, and even you think about, I mean, if I was a mom and pop thrift shop or thinking about open my own, that's like something I just never would want to compete with, to be honest. So it's a pretty good asset for you guys. And so we've been through how you stay on top of the inventory from a trend perspective, the software, the dynamics of how you guys try to price it when you buy the clothes from someone who comes in. But as part of this whole opening timeline, I guess you got racks that you're filling the store with. How do you know how much inventory you need before grand opening? You know, is there a certain dollar amount or product number of
square footage? So corporate office will give you the amount of inventories, how many pieces you need per square foot to fill your store up. And once we reach a certain inventory level, so each week they send us an updated progress report of where we're at, how many vendors we added on, how much inventory we bought in. And as we get closer to that number, usually about 3 weeks out, we can announce our grand opening. So when customers come in right now, we're buying. We're only in our third week of buying here, so we haven't set our date yet. But they're watching that carefully. So we have really great support. New store support with this company is absolutely amazing. Like you have somebody that's working directly with you, looking at the numbers and helping you with the marketing and helping you, figure out when you're going to do your grand opening. And they're just so involved and so great.
We have a new store opening support rep that we get reports every week. This is how much you've bought. This is how you're trending versus the top 10 stores, the top 10 grand or open to buy periods across the system. This is what you're looking like. And we actually just had this meeting yesterday. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, hey, you're trending very well. So you're open, or we call it a grand opening. Yeah. Your go date probably needs to be adjusted back because you're going to have so much inventory by then. So yesterday, we're like, okay, we're open to that suggestion. We talked about it afterwards, but they stay on top of that for us. They're really, the support with Basecamp for our stores and their two brands, the support is phenomenal. Really, it is. For crusty veterans that have been in it, it may be a little bit annoying because we're like, we've already done this a million times, but when you sit down and you listen, they really pay attention to the numbers. And you can tell by trying to get us on a podcast, we're blowing and going. We're not paying the emails and everything else. So it's great to have them to pin us down and say, all right, here's where you're at. Here's where we're at. So what we do is we have our partner, Molly. She's on that call every week, and we just get on it periodically. Molly gives us an update. But yesterday, it was great because we're trending ahead on a lot of things. And it's good to know that.
All right, you fill the store, and then based on that, when you can open, what happens after that? Are you banking on the vendors, right? People coming in continuously to keep giving you clothes? I'd love to hear based on your 3 stores that are already open. I mean, After that initial inventory push, do you ever have to pause to restock, or is it literally one cycle of filling the store up before you even open, and that's it? It never empties.
It
It
never
never
is.
stops.
So you went, and then once you open the store and you're open for business for shoppers, then it really becomes busy because people are coming in. Maybe they didn't know you were there during your open to buy phase, but now they found out that you're open to shop. Now they're in there and they're like, oh, you can actually sell clothes here too. So what happens when the store opens officially, like you really get much busier at the buy counter. That's been my experience because just more people know about you.
I think the thing that when we first got in the business, we could not, and this is potential franchisees out there, people looking at different, they probably can't conceptualize the thought like, how the hell am I reliant on people walking in the door to keep my store full? How would that ever even work? It works. It's amazing. The fact it's a service that's provided to the community is the way to look at it. And once the community knows that is available out there, it's amazing how they come to us and they bring us their
We have no shortage of inventory.
Never.
We never have a shortage of inventory.
Matter of fact, we have the struggles of the opposite. Sometimes we have to back off, and we buy all seasons all the time. We never put limitations on it, but sometimes we have to just look at and we have great reporting. And the other side of it, on the actual business side, the reporting here is phenomenal. Everything from we can see what other people are doing in the system. We can compare ourselves to top performers and see how we're doing. But the reporting is great. We can look at reports for anything.
You can look at your jeans and you can even drill down to see like how many pair of American Eagle jeans you have, every brand, every item. And so if you've got 2,000 maxi dresses in, maybe you're a little bit more selective on those when they come in the door. You're only buying the best of the best, but we never ever turn anything away. If we think it's going to sell in the store, our thought process is we're going to buy it in.
If it sells, we buy.
I think that makes your store successful too. When you're buying, that's what makes it successful. Because if people bring you items in, great items, and you don't buy them, they're probably not going to come back to your store.
We actually had a meeting years ago. I would say, was it 5-6 years ago now? Probably, maybe even longer.
Buys equals sales.
Buys equals sales. And they were explaining to us that if you didn't limit your buys, if you just were open to putting the money out there and buying it, buys equals sales. So as long as you're buying the inventory, it's going to turn into sales. We're also really good about, so if people are worried about making a bad buy, you're going to make a bad buy. You're going to make a bad buy every day, but you're going to make a lot more good buys every day. There's going to be bad buys. They're going to be in the mix. You missed something. You didn't see something right.
Maybe they had a condition issue.
Maybe
it happens.
It's going to happen. So you can't be afraid of that. What happens is we have a very aggressive markdown system. So it comes in, and we mark it down twice a year. We flip the store, basically, go from spring to summer or to fall, and then we do it again. But leading up to that, we have a discount. We go, is it 20? It's changed a few times. So like 20, 40, 70% off, and then it goes, and then we end up having a dollar sale or whatever.
Yeah, we have a dollar day sale.
You get the inventory out
of your store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's hard to grasp as well that it's just that one pre-opening inventory push, and that the community can kind of self-sustain it from there. It's clearly working, so it's just phenomenal to see. I'd love to hear, what does your typical store look like? And we kind of touched on it early on with, I think you said 20-ish employees. Because, I think the economics of this are especially fascinating. For the franchise world, the averages that they publish in the FCD are honestly just really phenomenal. I believe it was about 1.2 million, but the net income was 236K. And it's on like a 300 to 600K-ish item 7. So, yeah, I'd love to just hear like the economics, starting with the labor side. Is it just these fashion kind of consultants? Or is there other roles that need to be filled? And was there a big mix of part-time to full-time labor?
We have full-time and part-time. In our stores, we run with a manager, an assistant manager, and usually a manager trainee. So that's our 3 levels of management in the store.
All of them have to be buyers.
They all have to.
They don't have to be your best buyers, but they need to be able to train the process.
And then under them, we have buyers, and all of our buyers are also key holders, so they can close. And then under buyers, then you would have people that pre-sort that aren't quite buyers, but they're working towards that. And then we have our fashion consultant. So we do have several different positions and different layers.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. as you guys have said, there's just a heavy interest from those who kind of already are
Oh,
curious or involved in some way in the fashion world. We interview a lot of QSR and fast food owners, so heavy turnover of labor in that world. Is there some level of consistency or just for a benchmark? I mean, fast food, I think the average is it's either 100% or very close to it, where that's the turnover you're seeing year over year. So the
I
norm
think
in
what
these.
we have there is a lot of times they're working in an environment that they really enjoy to shop in. So
Yeah.
that kind of keeps them around. They may enjoy eating at Burger King, but
You can only eat so
once
much
you're
of it.
working Burger King, you can only eat so much of it, but the clothes get covered.
Yeah.
So I think we're hiring 20 somethingers typically, right?
Yeah.
They're for us in a little bit older category. They're a challenge in and of itself. There's some diamonds in the rough out there, but a lot of them are just they're tough, they're difficult. It's kind of the me generation and things like that. However, we kind of go through, and I think the main thing is I think we get in there, we end up having a core group that stays, and then we have a few positions that are just constantly changing over.
And a lot of times that's just because we do hire students,
Right.
like college students. And I think sometimes it's just a matter of their life changing and they're moving on their
Right.
career path. But we do get a lot of students and they come in here and they're like, hey, I've got a couple years left of college. I want to work here until I graduate college.
Right.
So I would think a lot of the people that leave are probably just because like their situation is changing career wise.
And I
But
think
I have found that, I mean, people love working here. Like they want to work in an Uptown Cheapskate because it is a fun environment. It is a lot of work,
it is work.
but it is a fun environment. Looking at clothes for girls and guys, they just love doing it. They love to see all the stuff that comes in the store. And I mean, I'm working the buy counter today and going through the items, and it's like so much fun. You're like, oh my gosh, these things are amazing. Cannot wait to like post this on social media and let people know that we got these awesome items in today. So it's just kind of you're doing the same thing every day, but you're also getting to see different stuff that comes in the
Seeing
door.
different
And you're
stuff.
learning all about fashion, like I've learned so much about sneakers. We also buy luxury items like Louis Vuitton and Chanel and those type of items. And so you're learning about all these things. You're learning every single day when you come to work at Uptown.
I think the only other turnover that we really have is typically when we're making the decision that, everybody's not in the same place in their life at any given time. So sometimes they come to work for us and they don't, if they're young, sometimes they don't take the job that seriously and we're looking for people that, we're going to pay you a fair wage and we want you to do a fair amount of work for that wage. And we're going to make sure you have plenty of support. You have to show up to work on time. You have to be able to work your shift. We don't want people that are calling out all the time saying, everything's going on. So I think the real turnover ends up being people that we're like, hey, listen, you're an awesome person, but you can't make your shifts. You don't get here all the time. Maybe you need to go find you some other job that's a little bit more flexible. We need to have people here that can work their shifts and things like that. But you're going to deal with that in
100%.
every aspect of every business. You're just going to have those people, and that's our real turnover. But what she was talking about was we have students like in high school. We don't have a lot of those, but we do have some students in high school, fashion consultants, and a lot of times they work all the way through high school and even on into when they're going to school. So we've had people that have stayed around. We've got some real tenure. Like Molly's been with us 10 years, and I mean you're talking about the turnover in these fast food. I mean, we got people that have been here 7 years, 5 years, 4 years. I mean, we've got a lot of tenure within our ranks.
And you're totally right. Every brick and mortar concept, for the most part, I mean, labor is the biggest, if not the second biggest expense. So it's just part of the game dealing with your labor. And as far as your guys' journey, right? Opening your fourth, but I'd imagine, and you clearly have some great retention metrics amongst your employee base. I know you guys are, I think, top, like close, or if not in the top 10% of the system. So you're really exceeding those averages that I outlined earlier. Can you take us through, like, when did you go from location 1 to 2? And was there a lot of extra time put into that first location to make sure you guys really had things dialed in before you were going to scale up to any extra units?
At the first location, I actually, for the first year, maybe year and a half, I was the actual store manager. And so Molly, that is partnering with us on the new store, she was my assistant manager. And so I think for a new owner going to this business, I mean, you've just got to be involved year one. I mean, you really need to get in there and do the work to understand the business. And that's what I did for the first, like I said, year to 18 months before we moved on. We knew pretty quickly after we got in the first store, we knew pretty quickly we were going to do a second one. We saw the potential in it and we really enjoyed the business. And so we opened Edmond, Oklahoma in 2019 and Norman opened in 2016. So
3 years.
3 years in between the stores, but I felt like we had a really good understanding of the business before we jumped into the second one. And we opened the second one, and
I just realized
it was much easier to do the second one because we've learned the business. And so,
Yeah.
and then the third one comes along, and now we're on our fourth. So I actually, kind of think it gets a little easier when you have multiple stores because you understand the business. You're also able to take some of those staff members and train them and promote them and move them to the next store. So the second store, you're not starting from ground up where nobody knows anything. I was able to take a couple of people from my Norman store to Edmond that were already buyers. And so we promoted them, and then we hired new staff, and then I'm there. So I think it actually gets a little easier when you have multiple stores.
I think you can open them faster if you wanted to. I think there's so many variables, but I think that we're pretty conservative in our approach to going to the next. We like to create a core base of employees, like she said, that typically we've taken at least 1 or 2 employees to the next store. And then Margarita had always went, this is the first one that she's not going to be the operator of the store on a day-to-day basis.
In the beginning stage.
Just because we're at the stage in our life that she shouldn't have to do that anymore, so she's not.
And Molly's going to be here, and she's going to
Yeah.
be the store manager at this one. But I'm pretty involved in especially that open to buy in new stores, and then the first few months.
But I didn't realize it till she just said it, and we put it into a timeline. We opened Norman, and 3 years later we opened Edmond. 3 years later we opened the South Store. 3 years later we're opening.
Yeah, so
So
I guess it's
I
like
didn't even realize
every
that.
3 years we were opening another
But
store.
there's other people that are opening stores faster than that. And I think we just take a conservative approach to it. We also we're lucky or smart enough or whatever. All of our stores are in close proximity. Like if we leave our house, we can get to any of our stores in 30 minutes.
Or less.
And 30 minutes is the longest it takes us to get to any of our stores. So for us, we had the opportunity to buy another market. At one time, Tulsa was available for the existing store, and it's an hour and a half away. And for most franchises, you're like, if you're getting a second store, hour or third store, hour and a half away, they jump all over. We're like, we're good right here. So it worked out for us. But I think what's important is I think people have to be involved. Like Marguerite was thoroughly involved, and this business ebbed and flowed because of her. And she put good people around her. And I think we're able to do our expansion based on that. I think this is not a business, although have been some lately coming on. It's not really a business for investors. It's more of a business for practical ownership. It doesn't mean you have to be part of every day-to-day operation. But I don't think this is a business that you're going to go buy 10 stores and you're just going to have other people run them. You can do that. I just don't think you have the performance level. All the best performers are involved. And like I think we had talked before but there's almost like a fraternity of ownership. We enjoy going to the national meeting, and we were told there's a rep that works for us that came from our biggest competitor. And he says that the most amazing thing of going to our meeting is when someone gets an award, how everybody celebrates it, because we're all excited that someone does well instead of being jealous. And he said that always happened on the other competitor. They were always jealous of each other. And we're more like, heck yeah, they're doing good. What'd they do? And what can we take from that? And what can we learn from them? That's how we've always looked at it.
It's incredible. The economics are great, and usually that leads to happy franchisees. So as you guys expanded, were you funding new store development with profits from existing stores? Were you taking SBA loans? How did your growth look on the capital side?
Well, originally we did an SBA loan for the Norman store. And I think we did one for the second store.
Everyone looks at it differently. We've got one of the top franchisees in Texas. They fund it per store based on the previous stores. They do a line of credit, and they basically pay down their debt that way. We are just proponents of using the bank's money. So basically, we could pay for the store ourselves, the next one, so we do well enough with it. But we've always used the bank's money to open the next store. This last store though, we did SBA the first 3 stores,
Yeah.
and the last time the bank, same bank, the relationship with the bank is great. And the banker's like, you don't even need an SBA. Just tell us what you want to do. But that's the relationship we've been able to
Nice.
build based on what we've done with them. So this last store, which is our most expensive store because it's just gotten more expensive to open, the bank they just gave us the loan.
But Uptown Cheapskate and Kid to Kid both are on the SBA preferred or approved like franchises.
Yeah.
So I think when you go to a bank to get an SBA loan, they do recognize both of the brands. So it is a little bit easier to get a loan.
Okay. Well, that's awesome that you guys are at the point where you don't have to go through the SBA portion of the process, because I know that can be a lot. And how big do you think, and this kind of touches on what we were discussing before as far as the operator or the franchisee being more involved versus this. There is some folks who try to get involved in franchises and they want to keep their job and just, they'll deploy capital. But if you are someone who's saying, no, I'm going to go all in on this and it's going to be my full-time job, but I do want to scale to multiple units. And, in the QSR world and honestly a lot of different the fitness world, there's franchisees who own dozens and dozens of locations. Do you think that's possible given I don't want to say complexities, but it's just different than a lot of franchises out there, what it takes to build a successful 4-wall Uptown. So yeah, how big do you think a franchisee could get in this system? And even if you guys know who's the biggest operator, or not who, but how many stores does the biggest operator own?
I think the biggest operator has somewhere around 22 stores.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And I don't know how much of this I want to speak to, but the biggest operator is one of the founders, like Chelsea, who come up with the concept.
Oh, right. Actually, I think I read that somewhere. Yeah.
Her and her husband are the biggest operators. They're both of them are highly intelligent people. Now, and they'll tell you this, and this is not besmirching them, because they have so many stores and they're so spread out, their stores are not top performers, but they are still making good money at their stores. Their model is to have more stores and they don't have to be as big. Probably don't take as much effort to run each one of those stores because they're not doing the revenues and having and the staffing we have.
They're looking at more of a quantity. So they don't have probably the most profitable stores in the company, but they have 22 of them. So that adds up.
A lot.
Our theory is we're on our 4th store. We'll probably do one more store, but for us, I think the profitability for the Uptowns, the potential is so great that you don't have to have a lot of locations to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I speak to the Newlands. They had a kid-to-kid store. They're in Lexington, Kentucky.
They're fixing to expand their kid-to-kid to, is it going to be like 10,000?
Yeah, they're going to double the size of or even more than double the size of their kid-to-kid. But they also have one of the largest Uptown stores, square footage-wise. But they have the largest revenue-wise. And who knows why Lexington, Kentucky does what they do. The operators are awesome. But we jokingly say, hey, all y'all do is unlock your door every day and the money just flows in there. You're not, because they're not doing anything special, but they are awesome people. So they're doing something right. And we say to them, when we talk to them, we're friends. We actually went out there and we had the best time visiting with them. We went to a bourbon.
Oh, yeah. Buffalo Trace is out there, right?
Yeah, we went to a horse track because it's Kentucky. You got to go to a horse track.
Yeah.
But they do so much revenue at the one store. They're getting our opinion, and they are going to open another store. It looks like another Uptown. But we're like, if we were in that same position years ago, we're not sure the revenues that they're running and the profits that they're running, we're not sure that we would have wanted to expand to the level we're at now. But I think all markets are different. But I think the model for me, like she says, we're going to open one more. That has nothing to do with the system or anything else. That just has to do with where we're at in life. We're at a point where we're trying to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But we bought markets, so we got to open them. But we're not young enough to where we're trying to blow and go. But there's 30 and 40-year-old owners out there. I think the limit is unlimited because the potential for this company is untapped. There's markets we're not in yet. We haven't really gone. When I say we're not on the East Coast, we're on the Southeast part of the country, but they're not even in the Northeast. And the brothers, they're from the Northeast. So I could see that concept going up there. And I mean, how many stores could you put up there? Just went to Houston, 2 years ago for the first time. Think about how big the market of Houston is.
Yeah.
Just open. Dallas-Fort Worth has been a huge market for years. I think there's 20 plus stores in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, the metro. but I still say that even that market could have 5 to 10 more stores. So I think it's untapped right now. You could put these stores everywhere. So I think the original question was how many stores? It depends on what level of management and how much they're wanting to do, but you can replicate your processes and it gets easier. Like for us, it's hard for us to spend the advertising spend because we're in the same market with 4 stores that we used to spend this money with one store. Well, we can use that same money and advertise 4 stores now.
Yeah.
Effort to
And
make the ad spend that we need to have because there's a minimum ad spend.
But it does get easier because you can split your marketing between 4 stores instead of just one store paying for it if they're close.
Yep.
But there's some things that you can do between your stores, like sharing your staff. My manager or my buyer trainee, like she goes from store to store, so they all share the expense of that.
We have an assistant market manager that she's been a godsend for us, and she goes to all our stores, and that way we can make sure our processes are consistent.
Like she does a monthly checklist on each store just to make sure like each store is meeting our expectations and falls through the cracks. So once you get to multiple stores, you can start filling in some positions like that to keep your stores more consistent.
Amazing. From a brand perspective, I think it's around 150 locations ish, maybe a little more now, are open. So there's plenty of white space for the brand. And then just hearing that the largest operator is 22 stores with the profitability numbers shown in their financials. So I think, like I said, 236K. It's plenty of profit on average for a store. So 22 units would be a pretty phenomenal business. And in closing here, I'd love to just hear more about maybe what your org chart looks like at this point with about to be 4 stores. We covered like within the 4 walls, but do you have any extra employees you've needed to hire from like an administrative standpoint as you've gone from 1 to 2 to 3 and now 4 units?
So right now we have a market manager and we have a buyer trainee. Those are the only 2 that go store to store. But what we would like to do is add 1 more person in that mix. And I think with having 4 stores and 3 people that are rotating between the stores, I think that would be ideal for us. So we'll end up doing that.
And that's to take stuff off our plate. We're wanting to not only keep a consistency between the stores, but we just want to dial back and enjoy the
ride.
Yeah. Yeah. We like to enjoy
Some
living.
vacations and trip and do some stuff.
So I think for us is we're just at a place where we're going to try to put a multi-level management in place that can manage the day-to-day operations of the business, and we just have oversight more from a distance. But we're wired that way. We're going to be involved. We walked in today, and I did a bank run, and I went and put signs out because we're an open to buy, so we got permitted signs. I went and put signs out today.
Cash your clothes with arrows pointing.
I'm running around a busy intersection, crossing the street, putting signs in the ground. I'm not having someone else do that. Marguerite's at the front counter. She's doing the buys. And yesterday when I left here, or today when I got back, when I was done with the signs, I'm putting the little sizers on the hangers. We love to do all it because we love for employees to see us do everything that needs to be done, because how can they say they can't do it if we can do it, So I'm putting little sizers and hanging the hangers up for them, getting them ready so they can hang clothes and things like that. So, but we'd like to be able to back out of that and have a layer of management in place.
And we're working towards that. We're in a really good position right now.
But if anybody is out there and they're considering a franchise, we were franchisees of Rent-A-Center at one time. I spent 20 plus years in the rent-to-own business, and she spent 10 plus years. And then we did a Rent-A-Center franchise. So I was on the franchise side of Aaron Rents, and then I was with Rent-A-Center. Totally different world. But I understand the inner workings of both sides of the franchise. I've been on the corporate side of stores, and I've been on the franchise side of stores. And I just think that this is a company that really cares about their franchisees. You hear a lot of bad stuff about franchisors, and there are a lot of bad franchisors. We went and visited, we won't say their name. I don't even think they're in business anymore. But when we weren't with Plato's and before we found Uptown, we flew out to Florida and we were going to do this deal. And we went around with the CEO, and one of the franchisees, when he had his back turned, the franchisee's like, do not sign anything. Do not.
Oh, man.
Call
And
me.
we're like, okay. So we got a really good steak at Tampa at Charlie's Steakhouse. That was the only positive that came out of that visit, other than we didn't sign with a bad company. But we realized that wasn't a good franchisor, but we eventually found a really good franchisor. And I think the leadership that we have now with this group, I would be comfortable to tell anyone that if you're looking for a franchise home and you want to do the resale business, there's nowhere else to go. These guys are phenomenal. I text one of the CEOs today, and I think you did too, right?
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
random.
you can call in,
Yeah.
you can text them. Like if you have ideas, they want you to bring your ideas and your feedback to them. They're just always looking for feedback so they can improve our company. So we love that because you don't get that like at other franchises.
Yeah, we went to the grand opening for the North Austin store, and I think they already have one, two, three. This would have been their fourth Uptown store, and they bought a kid to kid existing. This would have been their fourth one, biggest grand opening in the system, and we're shooting for that. We were coming for you, Berlins. But anyway, so we went down there for no other reason but just to support them, and there were so many other franchisees that came through during that grand opening, but Tyler was there. And Tyler was just helping
Wherever they need it.
wherever they needed. Tyler's there working, and he's the CEO. And that just tells you a lot about the people in the organization.
That's amazing. I think all those are really, really positive signals as far as franchisees visiting to help support with grand openings and the CEO being there, boots on the ground. I look at emerging franchises basically all day, every day. And yeah, there's a lot of brands where that's definitely not happening. And it's good that you guys avoided that one in Florida because, yeah, it can really go south fast if you pick
The
the
other
wrong
thing,
brand.
I want to make sure that we mention that if someone's out there and they're just in a different place in life and they're wanting to get in this, but they want to be part of this business, there's the other concept is kid to kid. It's the same thing we do, but it's children's clothes and books and everything associated with kids. Their biggest competitor is Once Upon a Child, which is also part of Plato's, which is part of that
Yes.
group. But it's a competitor to them, and those stores are doing very well. They've really reinvented that side of the business. It's the older side of the business. They've reinvented that business, and it does very well. So if there's people that are interested, but they're like, I don't want to stay on top of the trends,
Teen and young
teen
adult.
and young adult, and they got small children in there in that world anyway, that's a great franchise to sign on to. And you get the same leadership, the same
Same software.
same software, same support.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting just category that the brothers now, but the Sloan family really kind of started it all.
Oh,
right?
for
So
sure. They really
it's-
did a wonderful job, groundwork at this company.
yeah, it's just a world that I think a lot of folks don't know as much about, but I think it's fascinating and clearly it can lead to great outcomes. Honestly, very, very, very far above average outcomes in franchising. So I hope store number 4 goes well for you guys, and maybe we'll do another podcast after number 5's open and you guys are on the beach managing your stores from afar.
Yeah, you'd think it was hard to get us on a podcast in the city. Try to get us on an island somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, this was great to chat, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Awesome. We appreciate your time. Appreciate giving us a chance to talk about this. We're excited to talk about it because we're really excited about the system and the store and the business. We really are. So
Absolutely.
We appreciate you giving us a platform for that.
No, happy to. Happy to share your story. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.